And now it is time for our keynote address. Please welcome to the stage our presenter, Tim Costello, President and CEO of BDX.
All right. Well, I always love TecHome X when you look out in the audience and you see 300 technology enthusiasts who want to talk about housing. So we're going to go on a little bit of a ride, an excursion this evening. And I decided it's time to have a very practical, very descriptive title of my presentation. We're going to talk about 3 questions before you have cocktails. And I know John, so I am absolutely certain that the cocktail hour will have amazing drinks just like this for us sitting outside. If not, we'll order from another bar and we'll just charge it to John. How's that? Is that good? All right. So question number 1 is why we're here. We've all traveled long distances to get here. We've had to take almost a week off. We had to fly here, hotels, travel, away from family, away from work. We've got to deal with work at the same time we're here at the conference. It can be quite a drag. Now, the first pet peeve I have is whenever you Google business travel, this is what it looks like. Okay, I don't know about you. I have yet to see an airport like that. This is what business travel looks like for me, okay? So I want to know out there, does anybody else travel that other way? I mean, anybody travel that way? No. I'm traveling this way all the time. So look, it's not pleasant, but we decided to take the time. We decided to have 21 inches of leg room, right, in economy class, get angry at Frontier Airlines because we have to pay up more for our bag than we do ourselves, which kind of devalues me as a person, but I had that kind of psychotherapy moment with them. And we came here. And the question is why we're here. And I've been reflecting on that, and I have a couple of theories up front. I go, I know why we're here. We're here for the infamous TecHome X pub crawl. I know at least 30% of you absolutely are here for that. We may be here because John has this infamous camouflage sport coat that he every once in a while wears up on stage, and we give him all kinds of shit about. So we thought, well, maybe you're here to see if John's wearing his camo sport coat again. And you do have to ask him sometime during this to reveal what kind of socks he has on, because he's always got some bizarre industrial hidden message in his sock portfolio. So you could be here for all of that, but my guess is you're here looking for answers. You're looking for answers in an incredibly fast-paced and dynamic environment, which is technology, which is changing extremely quickly. The number of options, the number of features, the number of entrants into the market, how we use them, how they combine, how they integrate, what our customers expect from us from an experience, what they expect from us from a product. All of that is changing dramatically, including what our employees expect from us. And the questions that we could be asking with respect to that could be very straightforward. You may be here looking to figure out where you can find alternative products to products you already have in your home. You may be struggling somehow with the integration of products or the feature set that products have or the compatibility between products. You may be trying to upgrade the offerings that you have and say, you know what, we've had a few smart things in the home and we want to increase the portfolio and kind of more integrated, complete, smart experience. You could be doing that. You might be trying to improve your image as a technology builder by kind of learning more and being able to communicate with your customers in a better way, in the way that they talk. Or you might be trying to figure out how you can compete with used homes by creating a completely different high-tech experience where you can differentiate yourself from the used market and extract premium in that market. All these are great questions. And there's 1 million people upstairs in conference rooms over the next 2 days that you're going to meet that would love to sell you their products to solve these problems. And I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. You probably should buy their products. And those are great questions, but I'm not sure that that's enough for you to have traveled here, to have spent a week coming here. So question number 2 is, have we thought deep enough about why we're really here? And what we need to do to secure the next decade within our individual home building enterprises. Albert Einstein once said if he had an hour to solve a problem, he'd spend 55 minutes kind of defining that problem and framing the problem, and then 5 minutes working on the solution, because once he really understood the problem, he could solve it quickly. And I think sometimes when we talk about technology and home building, we don't think deeply enough. We immediately gravitate to the shiny baubles of smart locks and smart homes and smart refrigerators and apps that control things and a thermostat on the wall that I can control from Miami, even my home's in Palm Beach. I get that, but I think it actually limits our focus of how deeply we should be thinking about our business. I think we have to think about how technology is fundamentally changing. And we're going to talk for about 30 minutes now about why I believe technology is fundamentally changing the role of a home builder, and it needs to change your strategic plan, your hiring, your operations, your customer experience, as well as your product design. The battle that has to go on is we have to stop thinking about this as just being a smart home, and we have to think about our journey in becoming a smart builder, a technology-enabled builder. So the question, there's a lot of ways you could phrase this, but the way I phrase it is very simple. Are you a trade and craft-based construction company that is trying to grapple with technology? Or are you a construction technology company that happens to build homes? And well, you might say, oh, so what? That's kind of the same thing. It's not the same thing at all. And my premise is for the next decade, if you want to survive and thrive in this market and grow your market share, all of us are going to have to change our identity as a company to truly become a technology company. And I hope in the next 30 minutes I'm going to give you a view of what that means from a home building perspective to be a technology company first and a home builder second. And if you don't think this is happening, there have already been companies out there. I'm going to show you a few examples that have done that. Now, I see some looks out there. Right? You're going, oh my God, how long is it to those cocktails? Can't we cut this short? This guy's insane. We're not technology companies. Bear with me for at least 30 minutes and maybe I can explain my theory. In strategic planning, meaning we're going to plan how we're going to compete in the marketplace and extract rents for the market for the foreseeable future so that we can have a standard of living that is better than the standard of living of people around it. That's what strategic planning is all about. In that, there are feedstocks. And feedstocks are things like finance and people and architecture and design and your supply chain, right? You use those things to determine your strategic plan into the future. Technology is just one of those feedstocks. But in most home building corporations, technology is nowhere in the strategic plan of the company other than in product development in the shiny widgets on the walls. So you have to ask yourself, what makes technology so different, so special, so hard to grasp? Why have building companies not been technology companies from the very beginning? Well, there's a number of reasons, actually. The first is that the number of discrete technologies that are changing right now are so numerous, it is almost unfathomable for most home building companies to even just comprehend the list of technologies that might be affecting their business. Then the rate of change of those technologies is so extraordinarily fast, we can't keep up with that long list of technologies that might be affecting our business. Then the explosion of new, well-financed entrants that are using these technologies that are going to be competing against us in the future are going to also cause us great stress. And then we have a problem with technology that consumers are actually moving faster than we are. This is kind of weird. Consumers don't move faster in architecture than we do. They don't move faster in finance than we do. They don't move faster in building operations than we do. We tell them what the state of the art is, and they say, okay, that's it. That's not the way it is with technology. They all have their own smartphones and their own apps, and they just bought a BMW. And you know what I could do on my BMW? I could go in. I didn't go into the dealership. I went online, and I downloaded the app, and I configured the entire car. I looked inside and out. I changed all the wheels. I changed all the colors. I ordered it. I had it delivered. They brought it to my house so I could test drive it. And by the way, I got an app when I left that maintains the entire thing and tells me when it needs servicing and when it can be brought in, and they'll even pick it up and service it for me. So they look at you and say, well, you sell a product that's 27 times more expensive than my car, but somehow when I leave the design center, I have an 8.5 by 11 paper folder with a bunch of black and white photocopies with a bunch of Sharpie marks across it that says we don't carry those cabinets anymore and we don't do that and that plan's not available and these lots are already sold. And yet it's a $675,000 investment that's going to take me 30 years to pay off, the single largest decision I'm ever going to make in my life. It's counterintuitive to our consumer population of our relationship with technology. And the last is probably the biggest issue. Technology is not a legacy strength of home building. You did not find technology home building companies spring out of Silicon Valley, right? You did not find eventually technologists say, oh, I'm going to go start a home building company. It's all going to be technology-based. We were a trades-based business. And because of that legacy, we find our relationship with technology difficult. Now, being owned by the home building industry, Our job is to study all of the technologies in play and to try to forecast which technologies we believe are going to impact housing. We track around 100 technologies that we believe are relevant in some way. But this is our list of about 25 technologies that we actually believe will impact housing within the next 5 years. There are other technologies like nanomaterials and quantum computing and 5G, and 5G actually should be on this list. I think it is under something else. I can't remember what it is. It's called something different on there. But some of these technologies won't impact us in the next 5 years. But we believe that these 25 technologies all have a role in your company. Now, I can guarantee you, if you go back and look at your strategic plans and your business plans for next years, you will not see these words in your business plan. In fact, you'll have a hard time in your company even identifying who in your company would even be responsible for understanding what these things are, researching them, and figuring out what your individual plans are within your company. The speed at which these technologies are changing is phenomenal. Now, the good part here is you don't have to trust me on this because you're living through it. You can just look at this chart momentarily, and yeah, you can instantaneously see the rate of change that's going on in technology and all kinds of different products. And there's a various different studies that you can use or charts you can use to explain it. One of the most famous ones is Moore's Law. And Moore's Law is what drives the complexity of microprocessors, and it's the number of transistors on a chip. And there's a law over time that it doubles every X number of years, and this is plotting it out over this period of time. But that kind of simplifies the whole space because it's not just about the number of transistors you can put in a single chip. It's also about the cost of those chips, and it's the clock speed of those chips, and it's battery power, and it's the density of batteries. That suddenly, when you combine all this, it allows you to put a security camera up inside a house that is not wired, that lasts for 7 years on a single watch battery. And it has AI embedded in it and on board and can process that because it's a combination of all of those technologies. And you start looking at the rate of change and where we are. Right now, this is a chart showing basically how many computations that we can make for a given amount of money in time. And where we are on the border of right now is the ability for $1,000 to have the computational capability of a mouse. Now, you might think for a minute, oh, big deal, a mouse. This will be the first time in the world that a normal layman human being can go out to Best Buy and buy the intellectual property of a mammal. And you may think that that's not profound, but it's extraordinary. And there's a million different things. This is hard drive density and the cost of hard drives and how they changed over time. And it leads to these amazing comparisons. That picture of that plane up there, the thing on the right, that was in 1956. That was 5 megabits of storage. Not 5 gigabits of storage, 5 megabits of storage. And 60 years later, they have to package something that's about the size of a fly's wing inside a piece of plastic because it's so small, we don't have the human dexterity to manage it, so they have to package it in something bigger so that we can hold on to it. And we have 100,000 times the memory in 60 years, and you can buy it for $100. It's just phenomenal. In your basic level, not even your new game platforms, but your basic entry-level game platform has more technology than what we use to land a man on the moon, and you could buy it for about $150. It's remarkable, the power. And it's enabling us to move into new frontiers. And one of the frontiers is what we call the immersive era, where the ability to have both GPUs and CPUs at such low cost and memory and battery life, again, on this exponential improvement rate, is allowing us to suddenly be able to create virtual realities and deliver them to other human beings. Which means that our relationship with reality and how we present products is going to change, so marketing is fundamentally going to change. Whether it be through AR or VR, we're going to enter an immersive era. And these technologies of computer science are not the only area. This is the cost of gene sequencing. And the cost of gene sequencing is also changing at this same rate, which means our ability to deal with health issues and pharmaceuticals and health management is going to go through the same radical transformation that we have been going through in the computer side as well. Non-commercial flight is going through, again, the same transformation. This just blows my mind. In 20 years, we have gone from a $1,200 camera to having the same capability in a $10 chip. So the $1,200 camera that you gave your kid for college or you got for college costs $10 now and can be embedded in anything. You can buy it on a commodity model. You can go right home, right now, onto Alibaba and type in micro camera chip, and you will see $10 chips that have the capability of a $1,200 Canon camera 15 to 20 years ago. And you can put it anywhere. And that's what's led to the Internet of Things. And that's what's led to, in a way, this conference and the whole focus on smart homes and where smart homes going and the absolutely explosive growth that we are going to see in intelligence embedded in objects. Now, it's had another unintended consequence as well, and that is, first of all, look at the bottom side of this chart. It has driven down the cost of consumer products. Television sets, adjusted for inflation and for size, have actually gone down by 97%. They have dropped by 97% in 20 years. And the same has happened with toys, software, clothing, cars. In fact, the only things that are on the upper quadrant up there are really interesting: healthcare, education, and housing. And what that means is that these three sectors are now the prime sectors for digital disruption. And there are billions of dollars flooding into digital disruption in all three of those sectors now, because the other sectors have already been disrupted. So now we're looking at how do we take those sectors and completely rethink them. So Uber, for example, was going after public transportation. That's exactly what the play was. And it's had a dramatic effect on public transportation in that ridership is way down because people simply take Uber. There are hundreds of education startups and thousands of medical startups to get after the healthcare area. And housing is next. The way these digital waves work is they look at low-hanging fruit, and you first pick off the things that are the easiest to disrupt. For us, with this first digital wave, it was music, photography, video rental, those kinds of things. Later on, it became print media, TV, travel, HR. We're now in the phase of kind of retail, healthcare, automotive, education, telcos, and food, right? All of these are being disrupted. Even agricultural farming is being disrupted. They now have nano robots that will literally patrol 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, each row of the crop, physically and mechanically punching and destroying weeds using no pesticide whatsoever. Because if you can have a $50 device and I can have 100 of them and they can be crawling over thousands of acres 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, identifying with AI and a camera that costs $10, I can fundamentally change agriculture. I spend less on pesticides. The food products are now GMO safe. They're now organic. I get a higher price in the market. It's transformative for agriculture. So all of these are going to end up being transformed. What you probably aren't very familiar with is how much venture capital is now pouring directly into real estate. And some of this venture capital is being poured into real estate to directly compete against you. In 2010, there was only $33 million in venture capital across all investments in the real estate tech area. Last year, $5 billion went into real estate tech. This year, $2 billion has already gone into real estate tech. So in the last 18 months, $7 billion has flowed into startups specifically focused on real estate technology. And it's some of the names you know pretty well, things like Katera, Compass, WeWork, Opendoor, Redfin, right? Those are some of the kind of unicorn investment platforms that venture capital has gone after. But there are hundreds of these deals. So far, in the last 18 months, there have been 210 deals done that absorb that $7 billion. And it's huge venture capital firms. It's guys like Y Combiner and SoftBank and Andreessen Horowitz. I mean, these are the biggest players in the business have suddenly focused on housing and real estate as the next frontier for venture investment. And to get kind of a peek into what they're thinking, this is an internal presentation from Andreessen Horowitz on why they think venture investing in real estate is the next kind of hot platform. And And they have a couple of basic premises. The one up in the upper left-hand corner is they believe that data science and AI will do a better job than everybody in real estate does today. AI will do a better job of telling you what month to sell your home, what price to list it at, whether to stage it, how many pictures to take of it, what pictures to take of it, whether the rooms are too cluttered or not. AI will come into your home, you'll scan your home, and it will tell you how to market that home to optimize the take in the marketplace. AI will tell builders what land to buy, when to buy it, how much to buy, and how much to pay for it. And they'll do it better than Harry, even though Harry has been doing it for 47 years. Because they will read 250,000 data points every single day, understanding the correlation that we can't see as humans, and they'll be better at it. They're convinced that data science will be able to disrupt almost every single tier within the real estate technology stack. And what they want to do is they want to go full stack. This is the difference. They don't want to necessarily provide tools to you. They want to use the tools to actually disrupt the incumbents in the marketplace so they can collect economic rents from top to bottom. And that's a significant threat to people that are in the industry. The other thing that they look at is they believe that real estate is no longer a static asset. They believe we had fundamentally shifted as society, that from this point forward, real estate will be a dynamic asset. We will buy real estate to live in it, but we will then also rent it every time we leave. If we have a second luxury home, if you're custom home builders, your clients and their estate managers will be renting that home and extracting income. They believe the future of real estate is dynamic. And whether that's rentals or roommates or Airbnb or corporate housing or sales or furfur, they believe that the old concept of us buying homes, living in it, being a place for us only to reside, that concept is going to die. And it's going to die with millennials as they build a new relationship with real estate as we move forward. Now, this has spawned an absolute revolution within modular housing. There has been a ton of investment in this space. You know, Katerra has probably been the most championed of all of these. They received $865 million in a single round of funding. So $865 million. It is a Silicon Valley play. The CEO is an ex-CEO of Flextronics, which was actually one of my suppliers when I was in the technology industry. So they bring all of their supply chain, rigor with it, and their bills of materials, their back-end systems, their level production schedules, their laser cutting and automated CNC tools to make sure that everything is done perfectly. They just basically take the entire supply chain of building a home, and they apply technology to every step of that to fundamentally change housing. But they're not the only one. There's Integra, there's Blockable, there's Casita, there's Unity, there's Haven, there's Plant, and there's actually 50 more. All venture funded, all trying to figure out how to disrupt housing. So if you're in the building business today, you can't sit there and say, I'm a technology builder and I'm here to figure out what kind of remote controlled lock we're going to get. Because you're just looking at a bloom on one little branch of the tree. You've got to look at the fact that the entire tree is being disrupted by technology. And consumers are leading this thing as well, as I said. Consumers' behaviors are changing. This is today's consumer. They expect complete transparency. They expect 24/7 access, total self-service and self-control. This is just what we expect. They don't understand why our model homes aren't open after 4 o'clock. They don't understand why nobody's there at noon and the sign says we're out to lunch. You can't see, right? You can't come to our design center. They don't know why they have to drive across town to your design center to see what the options are and what the prices are. They don't have to do that anywhere else in their life. Consumers are driving this, and we have to figure out how to meet consumers where they already are. They figured out how to work with brands and devices in ways that we've never done, and because of that, we've created all these new tools and platforms to do this. And their behavior is changing. This is probably the most stunning statistic that I have really seen recently in mass consumer change. We have asked builders for a long time whether or not they would ever buy homes online. And most builders, no, nobody's going to buy a home online. They're always going to show up. Maybe a military person overseas that's coming back, maybe once in a great while. These are statistics from 2017. 41% of millennials put an offer in on a home and never saw it. 41% of millennials put a legal offer to buy a physical piece of real estate and never showed up at the property. So how we buy property fundamentally is going to change. So I know in this room, at least half of you, if not 2/3 of you, are home builders. How many of you have a buy button on your website? I've never seen one, not in this country. Guess what? I do see them in other countries. You transact the real estate online. How many of you at least have hold this lot for $99 fully refundable? That moves them from being a looker to being a buyer and prospect because I just put $99 down, so I'm going to show up this weekend because I've only got 72 hours to hold the lot? How many of you have that? You see, we're trying to avoid where consumers already are. We're fighting a tide that there is no way our industry can fight. We have to understand where consumers' minds are, and we have to meet them there. So with all of that, the question is, what is a technology-enabled builder? Hopefully I've made a case that says, wow, a lot of stuff's changing out there in the world. So what might this look like? I think it's pretty simple. You take technology, and you take the pillars of your business, which are sales and marketing, service operations, and product offerings, and you integrate technology into every single one of them. Every process, every touch point, every employee, every business unit. Everybody re-examines who we are and how we do things, and we integrate technology to do that. And by doing that, we will then have a technology-enabled customer experience that we'll be able to deliver to the customer. And to give you some idea that, or fear that others might actually be doing this, here's a great example. This is Oakwood Homes. They're a builder based in Denver, Colorado, a very successful builder. This is their strategic plan for technology. Do you notice up there it doesn't say anything about smart locks or smart thermostats or this? It does. That's in their product development side over there. They are fully aware, right, of the need to put smart objects within their home. But they are also fully aware that they will not survive the next decade unless they become a technology company. Fully integrating technology into every single aspect of their company. We work with 1,300 builders across the United States very closely. And I can tell you one top 5 builder that we work with extremely closely in this has taken their cost of marketing to 0.5% of revenue. Think about that. Just think about your P&L and what you could do if you could drive your cost of marketing to 0.5% of revenue. This is what Oakwood has been able to do. This is in Denver, Colorado. They have now come out with a new American Dream home, and its list price is $225,000. This is half the market price for the same square foot home in that city. It's absolutely phenomenal. You don't achieve this kind of breakthrough product by simply focusing on the bits and the pieces within the home. You have to think of the entire organism of the entity itself. And then you have other companies like Horton and Lennar, and by the way, Pulte and KV, we could have put 100 logos up here. They're actually making direct investments in these technology startups. Lennar was a founding investor in WeWork. Lennar was a founding investor in Opendoor. D.R. Horton was a first-round investor in Icon, which is a 3D printing company that prints a home in 24 hours for $10,000. Think about that. You print an entire home in 24 hours using cement, reinforced concrete, for $10,000, and your shell is done. Why would D.R. Horton be investing in this stuff? Because they realize the importance in the changing market of technology and what's going on. So let's take a look at what this might look like. Let's look at sales and marketing for a minute. If you're a technology-enabled builder, and this is not comprehensive, we have a short period of time here tonight, but you would be using AR, you would be using VR, you would be using life-size displays and digital collateral and ratings and reviews, and you'd be tethering your customers, and you would have chat enabled not only online, and I'm not talking about real people chat, I'm talking about bot-activated AI chat. that will increase your leads by 30% if you put it on your site today. But I can guarantee you none of you out there have AI-driven chat taking your leads and nurturing your leads. But these are the things that we would be doing. This is an example of a VR tour a builder used. You walk through the home. This is just a capture of from a headset view of somebody walking through the home. But what it allows them to do is to walk through the home and change everything as they go. They have multiple flooring options. You simply change the floors. You walk over the countertops. You change the countertops. What you get in VR is a sense of the space. They have a second floor balcony here that you can walk up and look over into the living room. And when you do, you get vertigo because it seems like you're standing 20 feet in the air looking down into a living room over a railing. That's the difference between using pictures and providing people with an experience. There's also AR tools. This is one of my favorite. The tool on the right, you can see he's going to select a home down here in the bottom. He's going to place a home on a lot. Think if you're a custom builder. You take your design out to their lot, you put the home on it, you move it around anywhere they want it in any rotation, you fix it there. I can now walk up and down the street and around to see that home. And here's the neat part. I can then walk on the lot inside my house. The house doesn't exist, but I'm walking with an iPad through my home room to room. And what do I see out the window? I see the actual views I'm going to have out my window because I'm standing on my lot, in my home, in the room that is exact size. This is not fantasy far out 100 years from now. Builders are using this today. Builders are using AR in their communities so that you can figure out where your lots are. Because half the time the stakes are gone and nobody knows where the lot lines are. But you can have an AR tool that allows you to walk out and identify every lot exactly, and you can walk the lot lines, whether it has just been plowed, whether it's just been graded, whether its weeds have grown up a foot, it doesn't matter. The lot lines are there. There are 25 applications already developed by the industry for builders to use today. You can't wait for this. It's changing too quickly. There's another technology called full-size display. This one is by Sony. There's some by Samsung. There's all kinds of different displays out there. That's a full-size car at the Consumer Electronics Show that drove in the screen. It was full size, so you could change the wheels, you could change the color, you could open the door, and you could literally walk right up to the screen and look inside the car to see exactly what the car was going to look like. So we took that and we took our architectural rendering and our configuration and our visualization tools, and we put them in full scale. So imagine having a kitchen visualizer on this screen, but this is a small screen. A screen that is 10 feet tall because your ceilings are 10 feet tall, and it is 20 feet wide. And I put that kitchen right in front of us, right here in 4K. And when we change that 12-inch faucet, there's a new 12-inch faucet right in front of me, literally this far away from me in 4K. I can see my home. I can be there in my home. And this technology is being used today. Nothing I'm showing you is about the future. It should be about your future, but these are all applications of builders that have already committed to becoming technology companies. Another huge hurdle that we have to have as an industry is ratings and reviews. We have avoided this subject for years because the only ratings and reviews we have in this industry, if you go out there and type them in, are horrible. There's 5 reviews on Piss Consumer and 6 reviews on Yelp, and it's because the only people that go out there are angry customers. The 32,000 customers that loved what they bought from you had no voice. So we did an industry study, and we went out and said, what if we survey every single one of our customers in the industry? Surprise, surprise, guess what? They love our homes. And you could have 500 4.5-star reviews on your website tomorrow. Not because you manipulated it, in full transparency. And when you do that, you've got more trust with customers, you're more likely to convert them to leads, you're more likely to get sales out of customers. This is the #1 request from consumers about builder content online. Where are the ratings and reviews? And then there's chatbots. I talked about them. Hundreds of companies, hundreds, thousands of chatbots all over the place. Whether you're doing MasterCard, H&M, KLM, Pizza Hut. My God, you can order a Pizza Hut through a chatbot, right? We did a chatbot experiment in our industry where an AI chatbot agent would engage with a customer, both online and over the phone, nurturing the lead to getting them to take action, and it improved the number of leads from both phone and website by over 35%. Part of the reason is, the sad statistic, is 20% of calls come in after office hours. Who answers your phone at 9 o'clock at night? No one. Here's the other sad statistic. Only 35% of calls that go to builders ever get answered. The rest go to IDX systems that says push 1 for this and 5 for this, and 90% of people, when they get there, hang up. The other parts go to voicemail, to unprofessional voicemail many times. Others just ring and ring and ring, and no one's home. We have the same problem with office hours. 25% of all traffic comes to our model homes after office hours. Industry study. So 25% of the people made a conscious effort to try to come buy your product, and you were closed. So what do you do to allow automation to allow people 24 hours a day, 7 days a week into every single one of your model homes? And when they get inside of their model homes, what do you do to give them the perfect tour? That technology all exists today. We have this capability within our grasp. The same is true of options. Every one of you could be making $7,000 to $10,000 more per home if you would simply give your customers the ability to manage and look at their options online before they go to the design center. It's that simple. Tens of thousands of homes every year go through this process. Tens of thousands of homes, hundreds of communities, all with the same experience. When people shop for themselves, they spend more. It's the Amazon effect. So what does it look like in operations? In operations, it looks like Revit and BIM and 3D scanning and robotics and human augmentation and logistics and communication and off-site monitoring. There's a million things that should be going on in your operations. I mean, we'll just start with BIM. You got to start with creating 5D BIM. You've got to have both cost, time, schedule, complete 3D design, MEP CAD, with full 3D structural interior and exterior renderings. That's the ante today to be in the construction business. And I know how hard it is. I know your architects don't want to get away from 2D and don't want to go to 3D, and every time you ask them to, it's a fortune. So we have to solve that problem for the industry and make it cheap, easy, and effective for you to end up having that. Because what this allows you to do, this allows you to do a much better job in purchasing materials and packaged products from your vendors. This allows you to build homes more quickly. This allows you to optimize the design and the materials and the takeoffs of your home. And it optimizes and provides you all of the digital assets that you need to do modern marketing. It also allows you to now use scanning to give you 100% quality checks. You can go inside your home at frame stage and scan your home, and the computer will take your Revit drawing and the scan and match it up and tell you whether every single stud is in its place and whether they are square. And you will have that as a legal record so that later on, when there is a structural problem in the home and somebody says, oh, who's to blame? You actually can pull it out and say, no, no, no. We built the home absolutely to the plans because we have that quality check. How many homes, the studs are in the wrong location, right? You got the wrong size header. This happens all the time. And we try to hope that humans are going to capture all this, but you can do this with a simple scan today. And then you can feed all that to a manufacturing and a lean production system where we can build these products 24 hours a day in a manufacturing environment. When I was a young engineer, I had a fabulous opportunity to be sent to Japan and study Toyota firsthand. So I was invited by Toyota to study Toyota. Turns out Toyota started as a loom company making cloth. And I actually started in that plant learning about their operations and what they did, and then I moved to all throughout their other operations. And one of the operations I got to was their home building operation. In Japan, Toyota builds houses, and those are the homes they build. They're up in the upper hand left corner. That's kind of the style homes they build. So these are not a mobile home. These are very attractive modern architecture homes. This is the production schedule. You order the home in their showroom, not at a community. They have beautiful retail showrooms that you go to with all kinds of digital tools for you to be able to configure your home. You order your home. For 14 days, then they do production scheduling and they buy all the material. They don't buy the material until you order the home. The material flows in. They build the home in between 1 and 3 days. They take it to the site and they assemble it in another 3 days. In less than 3 weeks from the order of the home is complete. And Toyota walks away with negative 45 days working capital on every home they build. Think about what that would do for your business. Every home you sell, you're going to have negative 45 days working capital. You're going to have to park hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars, someplace earning you money before you need to pay your vendors. It is the exact opposite of the financial struggles that we have as small builders today. Minus 45-day working capital, total labor cost per home, $5,000. I just repeat that. Total labor cost per home, $5,000. Just go back to your own P&L. We pay $5,000 to have the powder room put in. It fundamentally changes housing. 98% reduction in scrap and waste. The production, scrap, and waste from a 2,500 square foot home fits in a single residential garbage can. We will tip 2 to 3 dumpsters 32 feet long during that process. All virgin material that we just bought, and we will throw 3 of them away before we finish a home. Fundamental transformation of our industry. Then there's work automation, whether it's printing of homes, bricklaying, concrete work, excavation equipment that's guided digitally. All of these are possible. And then what we do with our people is going to change because we have a labor shortage and we've got to figure out how to stop basically killing our people on the job, wearing our people out. You ever notice there are no 60-year-old roofers, right? You know, there are only 24-year-old roofers. They just don't last that long. It's hard. But with wearable technology, we can reduce unsafe conditions by 84%. We can reduce injuries by 40%. We can reduce spinal compression loads by 60%. We can actually make these desirable jobs. And it can be all kinds of crazy exoskeletons like this. And there's this little video loop I'm going to show you. This is not battery powered. This is all mechanical. But it allows you to hold a 20-pound tool over your head doing overhead work 8 hours a day. I can barely hold my own hand over my head, that long. 8 hours a day, overhead work, all using new technology of exoskeletons. These are the things that we're going to have to do if we're a technology company. And then there's the product itself. Now we finally get to IoT and smart things and control systems and voice and lifestyle and cybersecurity and all this kind of good stuff. Before we get there, we have to understand who we're building homes for. Our relationship with housing has changed. This is our relationship with housing today. Let's look at the upper right-hand corner. There are 15 million single-family homes today for rent in America. 15% of the entire housing stock in America is single-family homes for rent today. 10 years ago, there weren't a million. We have fundamentally changed people's relationships with housing. People like We Live and Rome and The Collective and 100 other VC-funded startups are trying to convince millennials that you never want to buy a home, that they're going to create such an amazing place to live with parties and amenities and structure and carefree lifestyle that you don't want to be tied down with a home. And if you don't think that sells, you need to go hear their pitch and see who's living there, because it's appealing to a group that doesn't know when they're going to leave their job or when they're going to move. It's a completely different relationship. You've got co-housing, manufactured housing, teeny homes, all these things are changing. And what's driving some of this change are the fundamental shifts in our society. Look at that chart. 28% of single people live alone. 28% of our population are single people living alone. You think they want a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, Jack and Jill bathroom house? Do you think they care what the school district is? But what we build for the nuclear family. Look where the nuclear family is. Is it the first one? Nope, that's single people living alone. What about the next? Oh, that's couples but no kids. Okay, what about the third one? Nope, that's adults sharing, right, with other adults. It's the fourth category. The fourth category is who we built our industry on, except that nuclear family doesn't really seem to exist anymore. And if you start to look at what's happening in the future, we're going to have 22% of our nation over 65 years old. So not only where we are, but where we're going, fundamentally, who we sell to is going to change. We've kind of blown up the nuclear family. Not that nuclear family, but a nuclear family. And if you look at what we have built versus who we are, it doesn't make sense. We've got 28% of people living alone, except 0.87% of housing stock is a studio. 28% of the population is a single person living by themselves. Less than 1% is a studio version. Only 11.6% is one bedroom. What do we build? We build 3 bedrooms and 2 bedrooms, right? We build more 4-bedroom homes than we do studio and 1-bedroom homes. And I realize you may say, well, that's what we build. We like building that. But you have to look at how society is changing and who we're going to be selling to in the future. And when we start looking at that, and we look at affordability, and we look at these smaller units, then what we build physically has to change. How we use space and how things articulate and how rooms may actually vary in size instead of being a fixed asset. This is back to Andreessen Horowitz, where real estate is not a fixed thing, it's a dynamic thing. It's an 800-foot container where every room lives like 500 feet, and I've got 6 rooms. I got 6 500-foot rooms in an 800-foot container. Because when I want my bedroom, I've got a 500-square-foot bedroom. When I want a living room, I got a 500-square-foot living room, but my bedroom becomes 50 square feet. Walls move. Things change. This is the future that we've got to start to think about. And the market has changed as well. You look at Lennar's acquisition of Cal Atlantic. The whole idea of that is so you could build 2,000 homes in one market. It gives you a scale where you can now vertically integrate if you want to vertically integrate. Berkshire Hathaway not only owns the trains to ship the goods, they own the companies that do all the software to do all the manufacturing of homes. They own the truss plants. They own Clayton Homes with the manufacturing plants, and now they're a top 20 builder in the stick frame industry as well. And just this week they bought Mungo Homes, right? A 400-some, unit builder as well. Then you've got 3 huge Japanese companies, Daiwa House, Sekisui, and Sumitomo, all built in Japan with the model that I showed you, all buying production home builders here in the United States. And then the last one, you have this behemoth. It is the largest residential construction company in the world. They're worth $42 billion. They have over 100,000 employees. They're called Country Garden. They're a Chinese home builder. And just this year, they started building homes in Dallas. The market is changing. People's perception of how we use technology and our place in the market changes. So I'm going to take us back to the very end on products with the Keynote model, which I have used here many times in the past. The Keynote model is used by all kinds of companies, Canon and Nike and Toyota. And what it does is it says any product has 3 kind of components of features. The yellow ones down here at the bottom are things that if you give me, I give you no credit for, but if it goes bad, you're in big trouble. So in a car, I expect my car to start. If I buy a car from you and it starts, I'm not like giving you applause. I'm just going, yeah, my car's supposed to start. If my car doesn't start, I am super wicked pissed, right? Do you understand that? There are features that we just have to give people, but we're not going to get credit for it. The next category are the satisfiers, that kind of linear line through the middle. Those are the things that the more you give me, the better it is. So fuel economy, right? Acceleration, things like that in the car. Yeah, if I get better gas mileage, great. If I get better acceleration, fantastic, right? Those we all do pretty well at. It's the red things, though, that differentiate extraordinary products from ordinary products. And these are the exciters. These are the things that people don't know to ask for, that they find in a product that amazes them. And in a car, it would have been airbags the first time airbags came out. It would have been anti-lock brakes. Right now, maybe it's a self-driving car. Everybody goes, oh my God, this is my car, no hands-free. And right, everybody's super excited. Watch, they all take people out. Get in my car. Watch, we'll go to sleep and get drunk and drive someplace. Great, right? But people get all excited about this stuff because right now, that's an exciter. Now, what we find with this is over time, everything moves from red to the middle line to the bottom line. Because as everybody has airbags, well, airbags aren't, now if I don't have them, they're a dissatisfier. Because everybody has them. Everybody has anti-lock brakes, right? So over time, they tend to move. So this is kind of a treadmill you're on. You're always trying to figure out what's the next red thing to put in my product to differentiate me, to make a product stand out. So a year ago, I kind of fashioned the industry this way from a smart home technology perspective. I said, well, remote-controlled objects, whether it be a thermostat or whether it be a doorbell or a garage door or a lock set, those were on the satisfier curve. Kind of the more of them I had, kind of the better, right? Consumers were not yet dissatisfied if they didn't have them, but it was changing. You could see the whole market was changing. And the exciters at that time was kind of voice and what I'd call multi-device control. If you could give me one controller to control my whole scenes and everything going on together, that was kind of an exciter at that point, if it made sense. What's happened is those remote-controlled objects have moved from the middle curve now to the bottom curve. People simply expect them, and if you don't have them, it's kind of a huge dissatisfier. Now, 3 new dissatisfiers have arisen. Security and cell phone and Wi-Fi signal coverage within the home. These have arisen because the way we live and our usage of our devices has become so personal and so necessary to every aspect of our life that if you build a home where I have dead spots in the home, either from a Wi-Fi perspective or from a cellular perspective, it is a huge dissatisfier. And then voice and multi-device control have kind of moved from exciters to the middle line. Now, this is for production housing. For you out there that are building custom homes, look, we've been doing whole home control for a long time with fully integrated systems. So these have all moved down already to the yellow line, right? So there's an economic bifurcation here that goes on as well, right? And you can add things like energy management and anything economic control in that middle line. And I give you some evidence of this. This is the Property Brothers, and they were just saying that every single one of their customers these days is buying or selling with smart home in mind. It's just the ante now. So if we think we're going to excite people with a smart lock or a smart thermostat or a smart sprinkler system or a smart doorbell, right? We're not going to excite them that. We just have to have it. So you manufacturers out there, don't panic. I'm telling them to buy your products. I'm just saying we've got to buy all those, and now we've got to come back to the trough and think, well, how are we still going to excite people? Because we still need to differentiate ourselves in the marketplace. So the question is, what's up there in the left-hand corner? And this is the hard part of product design. This is where everybody at automobile companies, at shoe companies, doesn't matter who you are, hoteliers, everybody struggles with how to differentiate. The lesson here is to go back to Maslow's hierarchy. Fundamental needs of safety, security, esteem, pleasure, right? This is what we seek as human beings. So how can the home that you build give me that? And to translate that, it kind of gets back to this, safety, independence, lifestyle, time management, health. If my home can make me healthy, that's an exciter. So taking it one step further, for the luxury market, for example, if you not only give me a full home automation system, which I kind of expect, it's down on the yellow line, but you become my cyber monitoring partner, you actually monitor all of the cyber activity whether I'm at the home or not, and I am absolutely assured and guaranteed that my property, my wealth, and my assets are in good hands, you've done something really important for me in a very scary time when you look at all of the BitLocker attacks, the denial of service attack, all the fraud, the identification theft that's out there. That's a really important service. If you can, for 22% of the population, which is going to be over 65 years old, you can tell every one of them that they will not have to live in independent living or assisted living for an extra decade because the home that you built will enable them to age in place safely. you have given them something so valuable. You've given them the best exciter that you could ever give somebody. If we can figure out how to automate life somehow to give people time and make them feel better about the person that they are so they can have more time with their kids and more valuable time and be less hassled, then we can give them something. If we can improve their health or their wellness, it's another huge base on Maslow's hierarchy. So these are hard, challenging problems, but these are the problems that you're going to have to solve if you really want to create exceptional products in the marketplace. And the very last issue, in the end, we are entering into an experience economy. All of us are going to have to figure out how to become Ritz-Carlton. All of us are going to have to map every single step of every customer's journey. We're going to have to understand every touch point. We're going to have to train every employee. And every single time we have an interaction, it's going to have to become extraordinary. And if you're on the luxury side of this business, this is probably the biggest issue that you have to become extraordinary and differentiated in the marketplace. Everybody has hotels. There's 1 million hotel rooms. There's a reason you pay $375 a night at the Ritz-Carlton. And it's not about the bed. It's not about the linens. It's not about the size of the room. It's not about where it is because there's a Westin next door. It's about the experience. So if we can craft experience and use experience as a weapon in our company to differentiate us, then we'll succeed. I have the very last question, and we can go for cocktails. And the last question is, why are you here and not somewhere else? And what I mean by that is, why here? What's special about TecHome X? And the reason you are here is because of this guy right here, Max Kleber. You don't know that, but I'm going to tell you why you're here. You're here because of Max and a cow. You see, Max was born in Zurich, Switzerland, and he was kind of a renegade. In 1910, he walked around Zurich, Switzerland in sandals and an open-collared shirt, and that doesn't seem too weird to us here in Phoenix or in California. But in 1910 in Zurich, Switzerland, this was walking around naked. Okay, so he was kind of an iconoclast, certainly at best. He got into some other troubles while he was there, and he didn't like the strict culture. So he did what many people have done ever since him. He moved to California. So he moved to California to enjoy the California lifestyle, to be unshackled from this strict, conservative, rigid culture within Zurich, Switzerland. And he landed a job at UC Davis, which is an agricultural college right in Davis, California. And he studied, well, he had already said he had his degree, became a professor in the agriculture school, and he studied the metabolism of bulls, of cattle. Now, the good part is this will relate to all of you home builders because all of us actually deal with bullshit most of our day. So you'll have some kinship to you and Max. You'll go, oh, we do that too, right? So he studied the metabolism of animals, and this was a pretty important thing because by studying the metabolism of cattle in the early 1900s, you could learn two things. You could learn how much feed do I have to give to a cow, and based on the amount of feed, how much meat will I harvest at slaughter time. And then you could calculate kind of the economic returns of how much I should pay and how much I'm going to make, and this was really important stuff, and nobody had really ever done this before this time. So he gathered all this data, and he ended up stumbling upon this thing. And what it was, he started plotting the metabolism of animals by their weight. And he found out that they all plotted exactly on a straight line, no matter what the size of the animal was. And it was called the negative quarter power scaling. Now, I'll get into that later on, but it just means that you can draw a straight line. Later on, people extended this to actually all living creatures, including even individual cells. In amoeba, the smallest possible organisms on this planet, all the way to blue whales, and they all fall exactly on that line. Their metabolisms had a direct relationship to their weight, and by the way, so did their heart rate and so did their longevity. You could basically weigh something and know what their metabolism was, what their heart rate was, and how long they would live by taking his chart. It was phenomenal. So in essence, a cow is 1,000 times the size of a woodchuck, which means because of quadratic decline, a cow will live 5.5 years, as much time, and a cow's heart rate beats 5.5 times slower than a woodchuck's heart rate. And humans fit on this chart as well, except humans we manipulate with pharmaceuticals and medical things and all these other kind of things, so it kind of gets messed up when we start doing all that. But anyway, so Max did all this, and it was pretty cool. And then later on, Geoffrey West, who was a professor at Cambridge and then Stanford, became the president of the Santa Fe Institute in Santa Fe, New Mexico. He decided to take Max's findings and see if he could apply them to human situations, things that humans had built, like companies and organizations and cities, and see whether or not this relationship, this quadratic decline relationship applied. So he took all the resources of the Santa Fe Institute and applied it to this, and he compared cities and organizations and companies, and to their surprise, they found that yes, indeed, things that man built as well followed the same rule of quadratic decline. That if you look at cities in size, a city that is 10 times larger does not have 10 times as many parking lots, or 10 times as many roads, or 10 times as many gas stations. It has exactly the same rule of quadratic decline as those cows and the rats and the dogs and all those other animals that they measured. And they were just fascinated by this, of how could this be so accurate across so many different things. But that's not why you're here. Why you're here is the second thing they discovered. They discovered something way more interesting. And what they discovered is that when they had all of the creative data, the number of inventors, the number of inventions, the number of patents, the number of new ideas, the number of really creative professionals, they found that it also followed a relationship of quadratic equation, but it was positive, not negative. Meaning the larger the city got, the larger the organization got, the larger the company got, it actually got more creative. And that really stunned him, and he started to research this and understand that, and it led to something called a superliner scaling. And superliner scaling basically was the concept of network effect. That if you could surround yourself with other people that had the same ideas, and as you went from 2 to 4 to 8 to 10 to 100 people that all studied physics, or all studied microbiology, or all studied poetry or whatever, but by increasing the size of that group would become ever more productive. So in essence, a city or a business or an organization that is 10 times larger is 17 times more innovative. Or a city that's 15 times larger is 130 times more innovative. So there's 300 people here. There's 300 like-minded people here, and in your companies at home, you don't have 300 like-minded people. You're lucky if you have a couple of people that are focused on this. So here at TecHome, you are 3.2 to 3.5 times smarter than you are back in your office, okay? So you gotta use your time wisely, because the only way you're gonna be 3.2 to 3.5 times smarter here is if you actually reach out to all 300 people here and somehow benefit from that network effect. If you stay with the one person you came with, then you are just as dumb as you were back at home, okay? And you still had 22 inches of legroom in a crowded, stinky airplane. So I beg you to take the advantage of this amazing opportunity with such a huge audience of technology enthusiasts to answer some of these questions. And I hope you will at least give some consideration to truly thinking deeply about your company's relationship with technology, not just in the physical product, but as a fundamental technologically enabled company that will lead yourself into the future on a completely different path. Thank you very much for your time this evening. You've been very gracious.